There we go.
Oh, okay. Well, hello, everyone. And we're live. Hello, I'm Athena Moberg, and I am Hawaii's trauma recovery coach, and this is my amazing partner, Bobby Parrish, the trauma recovery coach.
Hi, everybody.
We're so excited that you have tuned into our live broadcast. This week, we are talking about avoidance. And we're going to dive right into material in just a moment. I just want to share a few welcome items and housekeeping items for just some upcoming events and some fun stuff that's been happening over this past week. So if you are tuning in on iTunes or Stitcher or iHeartRadio or another podcast listening device and you're not watching us on YouTube or Roku or Google Hangouts, then I want to let you know that just as a thank you for being one of our loyal listeners or watchers or subscribers, you can go to traumarecoveryuniversity.com or nomoreshameproject.com, and you can click on the little button that says downloadables, and you'll be given immediate access to our entire library of downloadable resources. This is just free. There's no catch. It's just we want you to have it because we appreciate you, and it's just our way of saying thank you. And this downloadable resource, it actually matches up with each and every week of our Google Hangouts, our live broadcasts here on Roku and YouTube. And tonight's topic is avoidance. And we have 20-something other weeks so far that you can actually access at traumarecoveryuniversity.com. And you just click the little tab that says downloadables. And if you're listening rather than watching, we do talk a lot with our hands, so we just encourage you to go on your Roku device and search for Trauma Recovery University, or go to YouTube and search for Trauma Recovery University. You can also find us at youtube.com/Trauma Recovery U. Or it might be Trauma Recovery University. I can't really remember. Anyway, if you are just learning about us and you're not one of our regular watchers or listeners, we hold this live broadcast every week for adult survivors of childhood sexual abuse. A lot of trauma survivors find these topics very, very helpful. And we also have 2 Twitter chats, one on Monday and one on Tuesdays. And you can go on Twitter and search for those by using the hashtag CSAQT or Sex Abuse Chat. And we're just so happy that you're here, and we have a couple of live events coming up. Every year we're going to be doing a live event called Your High Potential or High Potential Live, first weekend of June, and we have a retreat for trauma survivors on the West Coast, and that is, we're going to have more information about that on the events tab on our website, so we encourage you to check that out. And gosh, I know there's more. Oh, if you haven't grabbed your No More Shame November button, please go to our website, Trauma Recovery University or nomoreshameproject.com, and click on grab a button or click on hashtag NMSN, and just put that up on your blog and support abuse survivors or trauma survivors by just putting our little button on your blog. And for the entire month of November, we're going to be displaying those. I'm displaying mine already right now on all of my websites. So
that's because it's awesome.
That's
because you made it.
It's an awesome button. And we also have some of our awesome Rockstar viewers, listeners, and our family who make us graphics. Like we have our really awesome superstar friend Jack, who is a little graphic artist wizard, and he made us one of our images that's on there. And by request, I did make a button that says, I am a proud member of the No More Shame community. So you can just grab any of those buttons on nomoreshameproject.com and click on the button that says grab your button. So I think that's all of our housekeeping items. I feel like, oh, our Rockstar Tweet of the Week. Okay, Bobby, on our website, there's our new button that says Rockstar Tweet of the Week.
Let me get it.
And this week, we have a tweet from one of our UK peeps. Now, for you, our friends that are tuning in live from the UK, it is 2 o'clock in the morning there. We love you. We are so excited that you always join us, and we're grateful that you've stayed awake in the middle of the night to be with us live. So thank you. You guys are amazing. And Rubius, You are this week's rock star. Your tweet was incredible, and Bobby's going to maybe pull it up on a screen
She's
share.
trying
Oh,
because
if not,
we're
that's
on
okay.
live. Because we're on live, it's so slow.
Okay. Well, you could find the rock star tweet of the week. We could talk in slow motion. And so slow.
Oh my goodness.
You know
Oh,
what? It's okay.
what?
I can pull it up while you're sharing during our broadcast. I can pull it up, and then I can share it maybe in a little bit if that works
Okay.
out better for you.
Oh, I got it. I got it. I got it.
Yay! So
The,
shout out to Rubius. We totally love you. You're amazing. And this morning's chat was really, really lively. And I just want to do a couple of little shout outs to the best Stacy ever. You're awesome. And Maya. And gosh, there were so many people there. Simi was there.
yes.
Um, there were so many people. So there's our Rockstar Tweet of the Week. If you are just tuning in, this is Trauma Recovery University. And our tweet this week is from Rubius Flint. And he said, on the topic of avoidance, and really great, awesome advice to give people if they're dealing with they're a trauma survivor dealing with avoidance,
Yep.
he shared something very inspirational. And it says, the truth of who we are is life's great adventure with joy and meaning. Think of walking towards the future and not running from the past. And I thought, you know what? That's probably good advice for anybody, not just a trauma survivor, because
I
first of
agree.
all, I mean, look at how it starts, Bobby. The truth of who we are. We have so much to say about discovering our truth. We
Right.
have that entire anthology that was published last year from a whole bunch of survivors talking about just discovering our truth and walking in
Right.
that. And yeah, I had a little, some real life experience going on this week about walking towards the future and not running from the past. And I just thought that would be that. I thought that was worthy of a rock star tweet of the week. So
That
thank
is
you,
good.
Rubius.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I'm done with all of our housekeeping items.
Well,
I don't think I forgot anything. What did I forget, Bobby? I feel like I forgot
no,
something.
no, I just wanted to mention that I got word this week that I'm going to be blogging regularly now on a website called Psych Central,
Yay!
PsychCentrl, so psychcentral.com, and I'm going to be doing a blog on there about childhood sexual abuse recovery, and I'm going to be blogging a couple times a week. So we'll put links to that up on our website and watch for that, because that's just going to give us one more way to get information out to you guys. So
I
we're
am
really
so
excited
proud
to
of
have the
you.
opportunity. Well, thank you.
Bobby,
Thank
that is
you.
so huge. They're a really, 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 really big online publication. They're like the Huffington Post of psychology.
Yeah, I didn't realize they've been online now for 20 years.
How cool is that? And you're going to be one of
Yeah.
their regular columnists. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
And you're
you.
my partner. You're my partner. You're not anybody else's partner. You're mine.
That's right.
Well, I feel like this morning's chat was very, very eye-opening. A lot of people talked about avoidance and how it can be positive, and avoidance and how it can be
Right.
more negative.
Right.
And I would love for you to explain and go into further detail about just the different types. And we have this awesome one page.
Yep.
Bobby created this awesome one page for us, and with all kinds of just very informative tips. And it is a one page resource for you, the survivor, and it's free. Doesn't cost you anything. We
Nope.
have 20 or 30 of them by now, and we just want you to have this as a free gift. And with that being said, we're going to go to our one page. You can find that at traumarecoveryuniversity.com and click on the button that says downloadables, and you can follow along. If you're driving, please don't do that and wait till you've stopped. And go ahead. Take it away, Bobby.
Okay.
Class is now in session.
There we go. Avoidance is a coping technique, and it's a coping technique the same as dissociation, the same perhaps as someone might use alcohol to cope with their feelings. It's a coping technique, and like most coping techniques, it can be used in a healthy way or it can be used in an unhealthy way. And so, and like most coping techniques that those of us who are childhood sexual abuse survivors, maybe we learned to use it in our childhood because it was healthy and it helped us make it through our trauma, but now as adults, it's not so helpful. For example, let's just pick a coping technique of dissociation. I used that a lot when I was a child to help get through my abuse. But then as an adult, dissociation is not that helpful because it takes me out of the real world, it takes me out of the present time, it keeps me from engaging with issues that I need to tackle, and sometimes it's just downright not safe. You know, if you're out driving around and you dissociate, that's not a good thing. Avoidance is the same way. When we were children, it was probably extremely helpful for us to avoid certain things because they were just overwhelming, emotionally dangerous. So say, for example, our mother used to sit in the kitchen and drink and drink and drink till she passed out. And then our father would come in and he would be angry. We would typically avoid that situation and go in our bedroom and hide, or go someplace in the house and hide, or even leave the house and run away. And that wasn't a bad thing then. But now, as adults, when we have situations in our life that maybe where someone's angry or there's conflict, when we run away and hide now, not so helpful.
Yeah, I learned a little bit about that last week, Bobby. We won't go there at the present moment. I'm glad we're on the one page right about now.
Well, you know, I think I really want people to notice that pattern with coping techniques. The reason we learn them when we're children is because they're helpful. You know, they help us survive a really bad situation. But the problem is that we never learn how to take them apart again. So I'm trying to think in my mind, it's like the situation when you're a child is a Lego, and we take the avoidance technique and we attach it to that Lego that we want to avoid. And then we get older and we haven't taken them back apart. So for years and years and years, every time we see conflict, we run away. Conflict, run away. Conflict, run away. And we have to learn how to take them back apart. And we have to learn that sometimes it's okay to avoid conflict, and a lot of times it's not okay to avoid conflict. But first, we just have to realize, you know, our age, the technique that we teach over and over again, see it, stop it, change it. So the first thing you have to do is just even see that you're using avoidance and the coping technique of avoidance. So let's, and that's what the first paragraph talks about. And sometimes, like I said, avoidance is still something that is healthy. For example, if you are afraid of elevators, chances are that you use the stairs. Or sometimes you might even not go to buildings that you know you have no option but to take an elevator.
Yeah.
You know, and for some people who have a true phobia of elevators, I would say that's not such an unhealthy thing, with the exception of the fact that maybe your dream job is in that building where you have to take an elevator. And then maybe if your one way to get your dream job is an elevator, it might be worth your time to invest in working with someone who can help you conquer that fear of elevators. But otherwise, I'm A-okay with you avoiding elevators and taking the stairs. The same with if crowds, large crowds, you make you anxious. Well, you know, this is something that I'm not a big fan of, large crowds of strangers. I'm okay if it's a large crowd of people I know, but I don't like large crowds of strangers unless I'm in a professional capacity. If I'm in a professional capacity, no problem. But if it's just me and socializing, yeah, no. And that's my stuff. I know it. I have to work on it. But it's that difference between if I'm in a professional capacity, I know I have value. If it's just me, then I'm not real sure where my value is, and it becomes a little more nebulous, like grabbing Jell-O, you know?
Yeah.
So if I have that fear and I use avoidance, then that means I'm always going to be avoiding large crowds. And sometimes there might be a tremendous opportunity in that crowd. Or maybe I just want to tackle that fear so I don't have it anymore. So avoidance, it can go either way, and you have to just learn how to look at the ways you use avoidance and determine for you what's healthy and what's not. And maybe you need to engage a safe person to talk to and say, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think? Do you think this is a healthy thing? Do you think I should tackle this? Maybe if I should tackle this, but it's not a high priority. You know, um, Sometimes we have to learn to pick our battles too.
Yeah.
We don't have endless energy. We don't have endless time. So it's okay if sometimes you avoid elevators, and someday you're going to deal with that, but just not right now. Another way that we use avoidance is to avoid situations that trigger us. And this is a scenario where sometimes avoidance is a really healthy coping technique. For example, I cannot watch movies or read books that have child abuse in them. I especially can't watch movies because I have a hard time, when I'm really engaged in a movie, it's almost like I'm in the movie. I dissociate from the present. I can't do it. And so what do? I avoid them. That's not a bad thing, because there's really not any value to my forcing myself to watch a movie and get triggered.
Yeah.
I don't know, Athena, can you see any value in something like that?
No, well, I feel like I'm kind of on the same page as you are about the movie thing. I can go from zero to completely triggered and almost to the point where I'm in crisis if there's some violence going on in a movie, because I do get sucked into a movie. And I don't know if any of you have seen the movie called Boyhood.
That
Um,
got a lot of Golden Globes, didn't it, last night?
yes, and
Okay.
my husband and I rented it this
Oh,
weekend. And there is a little tiny portion of it where there is an alcoholic father and he's throwing things across the room, like throwing things that are breaking. And then he's trying to like keep this woman from leaving, and he won't let her kids leave when she's trying to get them out of there. And most of you have gotten to know me over the past few months, and you know that like that is way too close to home for me. Like
right.
just the alcoholism, the violence, the throwing things that are breaking, not being allowed to leave, being trapped, no hope of ever getting out, watching the mother get physically abused and thrown on the ground, and talk about being beaten. It was very, very, very. I had to grab the remote from my husband because he couldn't fast forward it quick enough for me. I literally grabbed it out of his hand like some pushy crazy girl. Like I was just like, I just can't watch this. Can you just hurry up? Can you just please? Can you just fast forward it, please? My gosh, like I was like, he's just relaxing in his easy chair, his lazy boy. My poor husband, he puts up with so much. He loves me. So I grabbed the remote and I'm like, fast forward it. I'm like, get this off of the TV. I couldn't handle it because it was just, I know my mouth goes dry, my palms get sweaty.
Yeah.
I'm just not in a good place. It
Right.
is just
Right.
too triggering.
It
And
is.
there was that movie that Oprah was in, where it was like a slave come free, or it was where the gentleman, I forget his name now, but he was a slave and he was being beaten and he ends up escaping. I want to say it might have even been The Butler. I don't know if it was The
She
Butler.
was she was in The Butler.
I
But
know, but
see, I can't watch a movie like that either.
um, there was this guy and he was being beaten. And I mean, it was anybody, if I see anyone being beaten, I don't know what happens to me, but I go to a really, 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 really bad place. And like last week, I, going through my EMDR, my counseling and so forth, I was telling Bobby this before we came on live on the air. When we were in the green room, I was discussing with her. I literally got into my car last week to practice some good self-care because going on a drive is very therapeutic for me. And I couldn't drive far enough. I couldn't get away long enough. I was just so, I was I was in complete avoidance. I was trying to avoid how I was feeling, and I had all these emotions that I was processing, all these thoughts, and everything was just flooding, and I felt trapped, and I felt like I was in danger, and like I was so misunderstood, or like, so, I don't know. I just felt so, I felt I felt awful. And so I just jumped in my car and I drove to the other side of the island. And I know we have very, very, very few viewers and listeners on the island here, but you all know that I could make it to the other side of the island in about an hour. And if I wanted to go to the farthest point, I could make it there in about 3.5 hours. So, I mean, I live on a pretty small island. So for me to need to just be far, far, far away, and I just felt so triggered, and I was, oh my gosh, it was just, I had a really, really hard time. And interestingly, the way, oh, hey, Jack just tweeted, he said, hey, rock stars. Shout out. I love those guys. So interestingly, Bobby, like I was sharing with you off the air, what happened that helped me come back to my senses and be able to come back home to this side of the island and like resume life as usual. My husband texted me and asked me how my day was, because I told him I set myself up for success. Safety management plan, crisis management plan. This is people. This is a good one. I told my husband that I need him to ask me how I'm doing. I need you to ask me how I'm doing, rather than saying, you got to give yourself permission to take a nap. You got to give yourself permission to turn off the switch and rest. You've done enough. You gotta. You. I'm like, no, I need you to just ask me how I am. So just ask me the question. It's totally not in the normal way you would communicate, but I need you to ask me. So he asked me how I was, and I was able to be honest with him and tell him, I had a really rough day. I feel like absolute crap. And I'm on the other side of the island, and I feel horrible. And I was able to just write it all out in a text message and get my feelings out. And he responded, and he's like, oh my goodness, I love you. I'm sorry that you feel that way. And if there's anything I can do, and, you know, I mean, he was one of my safe people. I was able to reach out to him.
Right. And he didn't just dismiss you or tell you were feeling the wrong thing.
No, he didn't go, that was 30 years ago. Why don't you just get over it? He didn't do that. So, yeah, I was able to come home, and, you know, interestingly, I came home and I didn't fall into my normal routine. I still listened to my body, and I knew I needed some time to myself. So I did the best self-care thing I could possibly do here at my home, and I just went back into my room, and I turned the light on, and I decided I was going to read a book for 3 hours. And I woke up, and all was right in the world, pretty much. So, but I was avoiding you guys. I was running as far as I could run, and I couldn't run very far on an island. It was very difficult.
That, sweetie, is the only possible downside I can think of to you living on Maui.
I'm not complaining. I love my life, I swear.
No, and that's not what it's about. And and that's what I want people to understand is it's just a coping technique. It's not because we actually want to run away and escape. We just don't want to deal with those emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. And I think for a lot of us, and we talked about this on chat this morning, that a big trigger for a lot of us to throw in that avoidance coping technique is anger or conflict.
Yep.
Because it was so dangerous to us as children that to engage in a conflict now can feel life-threatening. And it's not. But those two Legos are so stuck together inside our head that we haven't been able to undo them. And trauma does that. Have you seen the Lego movie? Athena, you don't have small kids, so probably not.
I haven't, but I want to, because my friend's relative is one of the voices.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know which voice, but I would know it if I heard it, because I've met him. He stayed at our house before. He came on vacation here, but I can't remember his name.
Okay. Well, in that movie, the villain, the supervillain, has super glue, and but the brand of it is crackle. And he doesn't call it super glue. They call it the great crackle. And it's this, horrible tool of death and darkness that he's going to coat everyone in. And trauma is crackle because it
Yeah.
glues things together that shouldn't really be glued together because it's not healthy for us as adults. So for some of us, conflict and avoidance are glued together through our trauma. And when I say super glue, I mean super glue. It's not it's not as simple as saying, "Oh, look, those are glued together in my head. I will just take them apart." Bink! It's not that easy. And so that's one of the reasons why Athena and I, the hair on the back of our neck stands up when people say, "Why don't you just get over it?" Oh, well, avoidance and trauma and conflict are confused in your head. Well, just stop it. What's the matter with you?
Or when you're sick of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, then you'll stop.
Right. Yes. Because you could just snap your fingers. It's not that easy. It's just not. And even though Athena and I are sitting here telling you, we know what might be going on in your head. We know that conflict might be attached to avoidance. We're not here to tell you that it's super easy to get them unattached. We just
No.
want you to understand that they are attached in your head. We want you to be educated and empowered and understand why you do things that you do. And then hopefully maybe somewhere in there you'll give yourself a little bit of grace and you'll give yourself some understanding for those times when you do drive to the other side of the island because you're trying to flee and avoid and go, "Oh, this is why I'm doing this. Okay, I get
Bobby,
it."
I just had a light bulb.
Tell me.
Okay, so you probably already knew this because I have shared this with you off the air, but my husband and I had a conflict the evening before that was something completely small, but in my mind it was big for some reason. But we had a conflict the evening before, and that was the reason that was what triggered me driving to the other side of the island and trying to flee.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes.
I was in chat last week on Tuesday with you
Yes.
and Rachel during Sex Abuse Chat, 6 p.m. every Tuesday. A little plug there. I was in chat with you guys, and someone mentioned fight or flight, and my response was, I flighted. I flighted.
Yes.
I fled as far as I could possibly flee. I was not about to fight at all. It was as though I was 5 years old and I was powerless, and there was nothing I could say to make anything better in that moment. That is what was really going on.
Yes. And
I wasn't
bingo,
my
that's
own
exactly
adult
it.
self.
Right.
I wasn't
Right.
my adult self at all. I was the little girl that was like
Right.
in this conflict with this grown-up, and
Right.
I mean, it
And he
sounds
meant
very,
to do
very,
you harm.
which isn't really the reality. But when you're
No.
in that moment and there's some conflict around you, and I have taken the class Boundaries so many times because I struggle with boundaries. It's one of my favorite books that I've ever read in my life, and I probably will continue to read it and highlight it and have new aha light bulb moments.
Yes.
But going back in time to the reason why I fled and how I was avoiding, this is a real life situation, guys, that just happened like less than a week ago. So perfect timing for tonight's live broadcast. I aim to please. I'm such a giver. What can I say? So I'm just thinking, if I had had a healthy boundary the night before, bless my husband's heart, he didn't say anything to me that he meant to be towards me. I construed it as though he was saying it towards me.
Right.
All he did was like change the thermostat to a certain degree, and I was like, oh, but I already did everything, and he was like, no, don't worry about it. We're good. And I was like, I took that as him saying, I'm the one who's in charge here. You're not. Don't even talk about anything. And all of a sudden, because I had been going through EMDR and counseling the day before, the week before, and I've been processing a lot of old stuff, him changing the thermostat or doing something completely small, for some reason, that little tiny, 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 tiny conflict was gigantic for me. And I fled as far as I could possibly flee until I could communicate to him and say, this is how I'm feeling and this is why. And he goes, oh, well, gosh, that wasn't my intention at all. I'm so sorry. I love you. When are you coming home? And I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, so day in the life of Athena, guys. Welcome.
Well, you know, it's interesting because Stacy just tweeted us saying that she understands that same thing, that in the moment it feels just like when you were a child and your life was being threatened. It feels the same, and we
It
really
felt
want to
exactly
validate
the
that for
same.
you. It does. When when you have undergone consistent trauma, especially as a child, then those things get stuck together. That trauma glues them together. So when someone raises their voice or they say something to us that is maybe it has an undertone of manipulation, or it has an undertone of being dismissive, or an undertone of, I'm smart, you're stupid, you need to listen to me. It kicks that trigger in, and we feel that same threat to ourselves. And I don't want any of you to feel ashamed about that. I don't want you to feel like you're weak or you're bad or anything. That's the abuse. That's part of the consequences of your trauma. It's not because you're bad. It's not because you don't have enough character and fortitude to just, realize that's silly and stop doing it. It's not that easy. And we're here to tell you it happens. It happens to us. And, hopefully y'all don't think that we're weak or strange or bad. And we
No,
know we
that's
certainly
the
don't
funny
think that
thing.
of you guys.
No, that's the funny thing. When we are transparent, like Bobby and I were talking off the air before we went live today, and she always reminds me, because she's such a good friend, you don't have to share if you've gone through something and it was really painful for you. You just don't have to share with everyone tonight if you don't want to. But like, Bobby and I work as a really good team. She writes our one pages. I design our one pages. She leads all of the discussion and all of the topics on the one page, and I come in with real life examples. And it's just kind of the part that I play. And because I know that as I'm vulnerable for you guys and as I tell you what's going on in my life real time, like today, this week, last week, then you can honestly feel it's not just me. I'm not alone.
Right.
And if I get one tweet or one text or one email of someone saying, I just took a deep breath and I know that I'm not alone, thank you, then that's worth it. I mean,
That's
all
right.
of this is worth it. All of it, right, Bobby?
Exactly. And that's why
Ah,
we're here, to let you guys know you aren't alone. And that what
yeah.
you feel and what you experience is not because you're a bad person or you're damaged or you have a weak character. Um, my goodness, if I could count the number of times I've been told that, um, you know, I'd be rich if everybody gave me a nickel every time they told me I was bad. But
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. We talked
yeah,
about that because we were told everything was our fault or that we
right.
should be grateful. You should be grateful. You should be grateful. And it's like, no, I'm sorry. It took me to be a full-blown like 30, 40-something-year-old adult before I realized that I didn't need to be grateful for the life I was going through because it was really horrible. Like,
Yeah.
I was told my whole life I was supposed to be grateful. What about you, Bobby? Like that was my tape that I play all the time. Must be nice. Must be nice to be you. You should just be grateful. Those are the things that I play in my head. What was your tapes? Like, was your tape the you're bad?
Yes, mine came from uh, my family's religion. And I tell people that my family, for us, our religion was a cultural thing. It didn't really have anything to do with God, but it was a cultural thing that guided the way we were supposed to behave, and what holidays we celebrated and what traditions, and all of our families and associates were Catholic, and it was everything revolved around the Catholic Church, but it really didn't have that much to do with a faith in God. But I was taught as a child that when bad things happened to your life, it was either because A, you were bad, or B, because God loved you more than he loved other people. And he was bringing the bad things into your life to make you a better person. And so you should sit down, shut up, and be grateful. And therefore, when something bad comes into your life, you shouldn't be upset, and you certainly shouldn't complain, because if you complain, then people will either A, know that you're sinning, or B, you're telling people I'm better than you because God is bringing trouble into my life, and you don't have any, and therefore he loves me more than you. And so it was this awful setup because I wasn't grateful. I didn't want the bad things. I didn't want the abuse to continue. And I didn't want to be special. If this was what it meant to be special, if this was what it meant to be good, I didn't want those things. And at 5 years old, I felt like I was the worst person in the world because I didn't want God to love me. If that's what being loved by God meant, you know?
Yeah, yeah. That's ringing some bells for me. Like,
you know,
I remember we got to have another Google Hangout on the topic of religion and faith and everything again sometime, and how religion was used to perpetuate the abuse and or make an excuse for it, or how
right.
how it was woven in between the threads of all of the abuse. There was like religion or some sort of religiosity.
Right, right.
I mean, you and I could probably have like a 3-hour-long webinar about that topic, because between all of the things you were told about bad things happening because God chastens those whom he loves, and you know, teaches us lessons we need to learn because he loves us. And then I somehow thought that if I was holy enough or good enough or close enough to God, that he would protect me from all of the bad things that were happening to me, all of the abuse, all the neglect, that I would have food, I would have good food, and that I wouldn't be hungry or hurt or whatever. You know what I mean? And like,
yeah.
I remember telling this story when we were on this topic before,
right.
about how I was like hiding by all the holy statues,
yes.
and I was drinking the holy water, just praying that it would like cleanse me from all of the bad, horrible stuff that was going on.
Right, because it was your fault.
It was all my fault. Of course it was my fault. I just remember the sound of like footsteps on the hardwood floor, and I remember just hiding, and I just remember, gosh, it was just, all of it was just so horrible. All of it. Oh my gosh. We don't have to go there right now, but we're going to have one of those in a couple of weeks when I'm not triggered. But I'm so happy that we can share so transparently. We've been receiving a lot of awesome tweets from our family, and Stacy totally relates to everything you're talking about. And oh, by the way, her husband or her mate, I'm not sure if he's your husband. I'm so sorry if he's not, Stacy.
He is. He is.
Oh, good. Okay, so Liam is tuning in right now. He's actually viewing, and I tweeted hello, and that it's really wonderful to meet him. So welcome to our family. And my husband was going to be here tonight, actually, guys, but the playoff game's on. He's helping out with the PGA tournament right now. He's working the sound box on the 18th green for the pros. Yeah, he's working. He does the sound every year for the PGA Tour here.
So tell him I want Tiger Woods' autograph.
Tiger doesn't come here anymore. How lame is that? Tiger, I know you're not watching or listening, but if someone who knows Tiger is, we would like your autograph, sir. Thank you.
Please and thank you.
Yeah, love you. Mean it. But yeah, then there's a playoff game afterwards. So he was going to come home and like say hi to everyone, but he goes, I might just go over to Mark's and watch the playoff football game tonight. So he's not going to be home till later. But I think that it is so cool that Jim and Liam and Jack and Simi, and I just think it's awesome when there are partners that are the support system for survivors.
Absolutely.
I just think it's the most beautiful thing ever. So
it is, and I'm so happy that you have a beautiful person.
Thank you. Me too.
Because you deserve it. I'm going to pull the one page back up here.
Yes, let me pull mine up here.
And do present everyone. And let's go back through this. We have honestly touched on so much of this.
I know, huh? Just naturally through our
Yes,
conversation, we go through the
right.
one page.
Um, so to reduce our use of avoidance in unhealthy ways, we can talk about the underlying reasons why we use avoidance with safe people in order to resolve them. And this is something that Athena and I go back time and time again with you. We talked about it last week too.
Yeah.
We don't want you just to treat the symptoms. We want you to resolve the underlying issue. So if the reason that you use avoidance is to avoid conflict, then why? What is it about conflict that feels unsafe? Get to that part under there, and then guess what? You might not actually have to pry apart the avoidance and the conflict Lego at all, because the underlying issue will be gone, and you won't feel that fight or flight response when conflict comes up.
Yeah, we
So,
talked about that when we deal with the actual root
right,
of the problem instead of the symptoms. Oh,
yes,
it helps
absolutely,
so much. I
it
remember, I
does.
remember when I was meeting with a client, I forget when it was, probably like about a month or so ago, I was trying to explain how once you deal with the root issue of what's going on, the symptoms take care of themselves. And that has to do with any unhealthy behavior that we're partaking in, not just avoidance. I mean, it could be, gambling or pornography or eating or alcohol or drugs or overspending. When we
Right,
deal with that root issue with a safe
right.
person and a safe community, all of the symptoms, all the ways that you're acting out and hiding, they all go away.
And because you don't need to do them anymore.
Yeah.
So, um, and the second thing is to tackle the things we're avoiding in small steps, in ways that, and you'll hear us say this again, they're just some catchphrases that Athena and I have come to use because we think they're so important. Set yourself up for success. And that's one of them you're going to hear from us. Deal with a root problem, set yourself up for success, see it, stop it, change it. 3 different catchphrases you're going to hear us say over and over again. Set yourself up for success by doing small things. So maybe the first thing you're going to do is, your goal is simply to recognize when you're using avoidance. That's it. That's all we want you to do this week, is to recognize when you're using avoidance. You don't have to stop using it. You don't have to crack those 2 Legos apart. That's all we want you to do. And you know what? When you learn to do that, then we want you to celebrate. And that's the 4th thing down there. I missed one, but I'll come back to that. Celebrate your successes. And don't shame yourself for needing extra time or practice. Remember, the more abuse that you sustained, the harder it's going to be to unlearn these things.
Oh,
Um,
that was a big one for me. That was a big one for me last week. I sat there sort of, I oftentimes will go into a room and I'll lock the door because I just want to feel safe. Locks are a really big thing in my life.
yes, yeah,
just
I can
being,
see that.
just being able to have privacy, because I never had any privacy when I was younger. I wasn't
Right,
allowed to have privacy. And I was sitting there and I was having positive self-talk, and I was explaining to myself why I needed to be graceful and compassionate, like give myself grace and compassion, because it took 30 years. I mean, for 17 solid years, I was
yeah,
violated in some way or
right,
abused in some way. And then it even went on after that into my 20s, not under the roof of my parents' home, but in my own interpersonal relationships. So I'm going, okay, I've been in recovery now and I'm counting all the years, and I'm going, okay, well, it took this many years to mess me up, so I need to give myself some grace because it's going to take this many years, because you can't unbake that cake. And you just
no,
can't unbake the cake. That's
no,
one of my phrases that I say quite often. But, I can build up my good pile
right.
and stop hustling for my worth and just
You know
show
what? We
myself some grace.
we can build another cake,
Yeah.
a bigger one, a better one, a nicer one, so that nasty little piece of cake that's sitting over there that got built when we were kids looks exactly like what it was, a nasty little piece of cake, instead
Yeah.
of our entire world,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
so now you're right. It's not about unbaking that cake. It's about making a new one of our choosing. I mean, to me, that blows me away that we have the power to make a cake of our own choosing now.
Yeah.
You know?
It is. It's miraculous. I mean,
It
and
is.
it's so true. Once we set our intentions on our recovery and we vow to ourselves that we're worth making healthy choices and we're worth having boundaries and we're worth taking care of, then again, you're dealing with that root problem, which is our worth,
Right.
and all the symptoms take care of themselves, and
Yeah.
all the things that are frustrating us in our lives that are triggering us, they magically just dissipate because we've built this new good cake. We've baked a new cake and it's much
Right.
better, and it's not this
Right.
crappy little scrap of cake like you talked about.
Right.
And because we're worth baking a new cake, we're worth
Yep.
it.
And we're worth the nicest one and the most tasty one and the most beautiful one that we want,
Yeah.
you know? And that kind of goes in with the last technique that we talked about, which is to tackle the easier things first. And the reason we recommend that is because success builds momentum, and success gives motivation to tackle something else. So if you tackle the easiest things first, then it's like, hey, whoo, look at me. I did it. I'm successful. Now I feel like I can tackle that bigger issue.
Yeah.
So small steps, celebrate your small steps, and then pick a bigger step, or pick something that's a little bit harder. And
Yeah.
are those are the best ways to tackle avoidance in your personal life. And then we went on to talk about a little bit about using how our families used avoidance. And I'm going to go ahead and click off on this because I know we can talk about this one without needing to see the one page. And we don't have a lot of time, but I want to touch on this because it was so powerful this morning in chat. This morning for us, in the evening for the UK. Very often our family members, especially the family members that enabled our abuse, and we realized that not everyone was abused within their family system. Sometimes, though, we were abused outside our family system, but our family still didn't want us to talk about that because it brought shame upon the family. So we don't talk about those things. Very often our families used the coping technique of avoidance to minimize what was happening to us, to silence us, to shame us, and to sometimes even try and convince us that what was happening to us, or the fact that we didn't like it, or we didn't enjoy it, or we didn't want it, that those things weren't real. And so we have probably, for many years of our lives, butted our head up against that wall of avoidance that our family or people associated with our abuser threw out in front of us. And a lot of people identified with that this morning and talked about how hard it was to deal with their families, especially when they wanted to share their truth and talk about what had happened to them. And they talked about being ostracized because family members wanted to stick with their avoidance, and so they'd rather chuck us out of the family than face the fact of what happened to us. And so we talked about needing to do another chat, another Google Hangout about dealing with families, especially in light of family ostracization.
Ostracization?
I don't know.
Being ostracized by one's
There you
family.
go. That's perfect. Yeah, see? They didn't teach me how to say that word in my master's degree program. So, yeah.
You know, it was interesting this morning during chat when we got to talking about that, and um, I think that we talked about this in other broadcasts that we've done.
Yeah.
Our life skills that a lot of people are very adept in functioning through life. Like they can pick things up and go, oh, I'm struggling with this, no problem. I'm going to work on that. Everything's going to be good. But when you are not taught those life skills during your developmental years and you're left
Right.
to sort of learn them as an adult,
Right.
I always think of our awesome family, Pepper Joy. I
Right.
mean, just I miss Pepper. Pepper, if you're watching, we miss you. I know you watch later on and you don't watch live, or if you are watching live, you haven't said hello, but we miss you. So just saying. Um, Not guilting, just saying we miss you.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, about the family relationships thing and how we need to do another. It was sort of a request that we tackle the whole family.
Right.
Gosh, it's just this web of like family dynamics, right? Family
Right.
relationships. There are so many different layers of the onion when it comes to family dynamics. There are healthy layers, there are unhealthy layers, and then there's like the really toxic layers. And oftentimes our layers are sort of stuck together like that super glue or the crackle that we talked
Right.
about from the Lego movie. And, there are some good dynamics that can be stuck to those really bad ones. And
There
it's hard to
are.
sort of separate those and pull that apart and go, you know what, I kind of like that this is like one of the things that my
Right.
family and we functioned that way. But gosh, along with that came this. And this is
Right.
something I really didn't enjoy. And so it's almost like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You sort of feel guilty complaining about the one family dynamic because if it wasn't for that, then we wouldn't have had this. But gosh, this was so hard. And,
Right.
there's no hard and fast rule on like how we're not saying your family was good or bad or whatever, or ours was good or bad or whatever. It's just a fact that if you are modeled, if behavior was modeled for you that was avoidance or and avoiding conflict or avoiding conversation, sweep it under the rug, nice and neat, so no one has to see it or hear it, all gone.
Right.
Everything's perfect. Everything's perfect on the outside. Perfect. Perfect. Leave it to Beaver. Perfect. There's a lot of avoidance layers. There's some good, and it could be stuck to some things that weren't so good. And
Right.
so I do think it would be really helpful, just on the cusp of this avoidance broadcast that we're doing, along with topics with chat. Maybe we could look at our editorial calendar that we were talking about and like see when we could do a family one again.
Right.
And
I'm
gosh,
writing that down.
and the first thing that came to mind, Bobby, the first thing that came to mind when it was mentioned during chat this morning
Uh-huh.
was our Trauma Recovery University audio
Right.
download on the family relationships that we talked about last week.
Right. Yes.
So that's a paid resource, folks. That's a paid resource that we're talking about. But our weekly live broadcasts and our chats are always free, of course, and our one-page downloadable resources located at traumarecoveryuniversity.com by clicking the downloadables tab. Those are always complimentary resources for you, just for being one of our loyal subscribers, just our way of saying thank you. But we do have some premium resources that we're getting ready to launch as well, and that was the first thing that came to mind when they brought up family relationships today, because it is one that keeps coming back every time, Bobby.
It does.
It comes back more often than I think anyone that we've dealt with besides, I think, religion.
Yeah.
I think
It is.
religion
It's huge. And you guys let us know by bringing topics back up what's important to you and what you're struggling with and what you need more information about. And we do listen.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so we're trying to take those topics that you've told us that are important to you, that you need more help with, and we're trying to focus in on those. And I think it's like, what was it, last week or maybe the week before, Athena, that you told me that our YouTube episode on narcissism
Oh, my
was the
gosh.
most watched
Yes,
episode
it
of
is.
every episode we've done?
Every episode we've ever done, I was studying our Google Analytics and just going in the back end of our YouTube page, because we're getting ready. If you're watching us on a Roku device, that's a new development for us. We are still in the waiting process for Roku to approve us to have our very own Roku channel. So we're so excited. But yeah, I was studying our analytics, and besides boundaries and family relationships, those came in a very close second, but survivors and narcissistic parents was like by far the most watched episode we've ever done. So I think we need to get a resource guide or something ready.
Yeah,
for people.
but see, that ties in, because talk about using avoidance. Oh my gosh, that's like a narcissist, one of their chief skills. You know,
sleight of hand. Look over here.
Exactly.
Look over here. Look over
Right,
here.
exactly.
Wait, what do you mean? Whap. Let me whap you.
Yes. They come here, and as soon as you come there, they whap you upside the head. Yes.
Yeah.
So we hear you. We understand it's all woven in together. I love the way that Athena talks about it being a sticky, dark web of everything, and we're trying very hard to find pieces that you want us to untangle and look at, so that we can help you, give you the skills, equip you with what you need to deal with that part of your particular web.
Yeah.
So I think there was there
there's one more. We have like a supercharge your recovery.
Right. Okay.
It's the best. We call it the best technique, and we've touched on it so much tonight already. So it's almost redundant, but I think it's worth mentioning, Bobby. I want you to share it.
Absolutely.
And read
it. Okay. Sorry, I'm a little slow here. Here we go. Okay. The best strategy is having healthy boundaries with others when they exhibit toxic behaviors and beliefs. When we choose to establish and maintain healthy boundaries, people are less likely to harm us or stunt the growth we are experiencing during our recovery. And this is so true, and I know I've heard Athena talk about it time and time. She talks about how recovery is not going to really go very far if you don't have healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries are an essential part of your recovery. So we try and bring this up and show you where it's applicable every time it is applicable. So that's the supercharge your recovery for the best strategy for this week.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yay! That's our pro tip for the week.
Healthy boundaries.
We are coming close up on time. I just want to, in closing, as always, thank you for being a subscriber and a listener or a viewer. Thank you, Roku viewers. Please subscribe to our Roku channel if you're watching us on Roku, and please tell your friends about us. And there is nothing out there on Roku that is like what we're doing here. And every single time I run into someone, whether I'm out at a restaurant or at the grocery store or something, and I tell them what we're doing on Google+, on YouTube, on Roku, on social media, they're like, wow, I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just reminded that there is no other resource like this. So we are so proud and blessed to be a part of your recovery journey. Bobby has up here, I'm gonna just read this real quick.
Yes.
For our listeners that are driving, we don't want you looking down and watching this. I'm going to read this to you. This is our weekly calendar. And I think what I'm going to do is put another button up on our webpage, our website, traumarecoveryuniversity.com, which, by the way, was designed by you rock stars. You beautifuls out there told us what colors you like, what you wanted, and I designed it after what you told me. So thank you.
So she's a rock star, too.
That makes me a rock star by default.
It does.
Because I'm a good listener. So here we are. Our page says, join us every week, which we would love it if you joined us every single week. It would be amazing. On Mondays, using the hashtag CSAQT, which stands for Child Sexual Abuse Question Time, 10 a.m. Pacific, and it's 6 p.m. in the UK. So that's actually was specifically designed and started by our very dear friend Susan, and we gladly facilitate it for our UK survivors. We are so excited that we have an international support system going now. It's
Yes.
incredible. On
Yes.
Tuesdays at 2 o'clock in the morning UK time. Well, actually, it's Wednesdays, 2
Yes.
o'clock in the morning UK time. Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. And for anyone here in Hawaii, if you're here, you could just come over with me and we could do chat together. Or you can log on to twitter.com and do hashtag sex abuse chat, and that is actually at 4 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time. So ask us by private messaging us or emailing us in any which way you want. We have tons of contact forms on our website. Ask us to join one of our private Facebook groups, because when you're in community with other people, it is just the quickest way to be in recovery. So we're so excited. And again, Google+, YouTube, Roku, Mondays, 6 p.m. Pacific, and which is Tuesdays at 2 o'clock a.m. in the UK. So thank you.
Yes.
And Bobby, why don't you read them our next resource, our little page that we have. And I think I'm going to put these up on our website so that people can have them and download them or print them or whatever, so they can know how to always reach us and stuff.
Absolutely. There we go. I have to say, first I have to find it. Okay. So in order to reach us, you can reach us on Twitter, and I am Truth is Hers. Athena is Athena Moberg. And then we have Trauma Recovery U, which is our joint project together. And then you can email me at bobbylparish@gmail.com or athena@athenamoberg.com. The websites are bobbyparish.com, athenamoberg.com, and traumarecoveryuniversity.com. You can also find us on Facebook. For Trauma Recovery University, it's facebook.com/backsplash. Wow, backsplash, yeah, /Trauma Recovery University. And I am at facebook.com/bobby.parish. Athena is at facebook.com/Athena Moberg fan page. That's her business page. And then she has facebook.com/Dawn Athena Moberg. That's her personal Facebook page. And both of us pretty much post everything as public. So you can come, you can see what we're talking about, what we're sharing. You can follow us, friend us, whatever it is that you're comfortable doing. And just let us know that you're out there. Reach out to us. Let us know what topics you want to talk about. If you'd like to become a member of one of our private Facebook groups, just let us know what we can do to help you in your recovery.
And I just want to say a little blanket statement to all of the beautifuls out there. If we have not responded to an email or a message that you sent us on our website or something, we really appreciate your patience. We're transitioning into the new year with new branding, new everything, and if we've missed any of your messages, then we do apologize. We will get back to you just as soon as possible, but please feel free to be persistent if you're not offended by the fact that we didn't respond. Just send us another message and say, I need you. You missed my message or something. I know that we had someone send us a poem, which was actually quite beautiful, and I read it this morning for the first time, and that was from our friend Janet. So yeah, and I had not, and it was 4 days old. I hadn't read it in 4 days. So I apologize for my tardiness in getting back to everyone personally. I'm doing the best I can, and so is Bobby. So yeah.
We do every day the best we can.
So we love doing this for you every single week. You are the reason why we do this. We appreciate you, we love you, and we absolutely believe in you. We love being your resource for trauma recovery, healthy, informed trauma recovery that you are in charge of. And if you need either one of us throughout the week, we look forward to hearing from you personally. We'll be responding to more tweets. Use the hashtag #NoMoreShame. It's on our website. You can use any hashtag that we've been using, but the #NoMoreShame hashtag actually shows up on our website below our video monitor for our live broadcast every week so we can follow along real easy. And you guys can watch right there on the website, and you can type to us right there on the website. It's like all just in one little spot, which is bit.ly/trauma recovery U. So until next week, we appreciate you and we love you. Thank you.
Yes. So we'll either see you back here next week or we'll see you in one of the chats.
Yeah. We do have Sex Abuse Chat tomorrow at 6 p.m.
Right.
Pacific time, and we would love to connect with you personally then as well. So until next time, bye.
Bye, everybody.